You wake up, you brush your teeth, you rinse, spit and move on with your day. It's routine, ordinary, safe. But beneath that comforting ritual, something is building, something invisible, something dangerous. There's a film, thin, sticky and silent, clinging to your teeth. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but it's alive. And every time you eat, every time you swallow, it spreads. This film is called dental plaque. Most people think it's harmless, just a cosmetic nuisance. But what if this simple buildup is more than it seems? What if, right now, that soft coating is laying the groundwork for a much deadlier problem? Cardiologists and dentists have started sounding the alarm, because what begins in your mouth might not stay there. A heart attack doesn't always come from fried food or clogged arteries you inherited from your parents. Sometimes it starts with a bleeding gum line, with a tooth you forgot to floss. This isn't a story about vanity, it's a story about survival. It's about how a routine we all take for granted could actually be the quiet trigger behind one of the world's biggest killers, cardiovascular disease. And you know, this time, the warning signs aren't in your chest, they're in your mouth. That soft, nearly invisible layer coating your teeth? Well, it's far from innocent. Dental plaque is a living biofilm, a colony of bacteria that thrives in the dark, moist corners of your mouth. It feeds on sugar, multiplies rapidly, and honestly, it begins its work quietly, with no pain, no warning. At first, it seems like nothing, just a fuzzy sensation when you rub your tongue across your teeth. But left unchecked, plaque hardens into tartar. And once that transformation occurs, the battle is no longer just about fresh breath or white teeth. Tartar becomes a stronghold, locking in bacteria that cause inflammation not only in your gums, but throughout your body. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly half of adults over the age of 30 already suffer from some form of gum disease. For those over 65, that number climbs even higher. And yet, it remains one of the most overlooked health conditions in modern medicine. Why? Because gum disease doesn't scream, it whispers. No high fevers, no emergency room visits, just a little redness, a touch of bleeding, maybe some swelling. But beneath that calm surface, these bacteria are slipping into your bloodstream, hijacking your immune system, lighting fires of inflammation that can spread far beyond your jaw. And the organ most vulnerable to this silent invasion isn't your teeth, it's your heart. Once inside your bloodstream, the bacteria from dental plaque don't just float harmlessly. They travel, they settle, and in some cases they ignite. When gum disease progresses, tiny blood vessels in your mouth become gateways. These vessels are fragile and exposed. Bacteria, along with the inflammatory chemicals your body produces to fight them, slip through and begin circulating systemically. At first, your immune system tries to contain the threat. White blood cells are dispatched, but you know inflammation doesn't stay local, it spreads. Over time, this chronic low-grade inflammation begins to attack the inner lining of your arteries. This lining, known as the endothelium, is delicate and essential. It regulates blood flow, prevents clotting, and protects your heart. But once it's compromised, it becomes sticky, attracting cholesterol, calcium, and immune cells. These materials begin to clump together, forming atherosclerotic plaques. The process is slow, silent, and honestly devastating. Arteries narrow, blood flow weakens, pressure rises. And then, one day, a plaque ruptures, a clot forms, blood just can't pass. The heart, starved of oxygen, begins to die. This is actually how a heart attack can begin. Not just from poor diet, not just from genetics, but honestly from a mouth that was never treated. A 2019 study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology found that individuals with severe gum disease had a 2 to 3 times higher risk of suffering a cardiovascular event. It's a staggering statistic. But it makes one thing painfully clear: your gums and your heart are not separate systems. They're connected by a silent, deadly bridge built by plaque. The human body rarely stays silent. It whispers long before it screams. And, when it comes to the early signs of gum disease, the very first stage of this invisible threat, those whispers begin inside your mouth: bleeding when you brush, slight tenderness around the gums, a reddish hue that wasn't there before. These are not normal signs of aging. They're red flags. But most people honestly just dismiss them. You just brushed too hard. It's nothing. Just a bit of irritation. I'll deal with it later. Later becomes never. And that small bleed becomes a chronic condition. As the plaque accumulates and hardens into tartar, your gums begin to pull away from the teeth, creating pockets. These pockets trap more bacteria. The infection deepens. The smell worsens. Eventually, teeth may loosen. Some even fall out. But even here, the pain is minimal. That's part of the danger. It doesn't hurt until it's far too late. Meanwhile, the bacteria continue their journey inward. Inflammation builds. Your arteries feel the pressure, and your heart bears the cost. So these early symptoms aren't just signs of oral decline. They're actually the beginning of a systemic breakdown. And while the warning signs may seem small, the consequences they point to are anything but. If your mouth is bleeding, it's not normal. It's definitely not harmless. It's a message, one your heart is desperately hoping you'll hear. For decades, medicine treated the mouth as a separate entity, disconnected from the rest of the body. Dentists focused on cavities. Cardiologists focused on arteries. The two rarely spoke. But in recent years, that wall has started to crumble. Study after study has drawn a clear, undeniable link between periodontal disease and cardiovascular events. The connection is no longer speculation, it's science. In a landmark study published by the American Heart Association, researchers followed over 11,000 adults for nearly 2 decades. The findings? Those with advanced gum disease had a 42% higher risk of heart attack compared to those with healthy gums. Another study from Harvard found that individuals who brush less than twice a day had a 70% higher chance of developing heart disease. Not because brushing directly affects the heart, but because poor oral hygiene allows chronic inflammation to flourish. And it's not just about plaque, it's about what plaque unleashes. When your immune system is constantly fighting off bacterial invaders in your gums, it becomes overworked, less efficient at protecting other organs, including the heart. Inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein or CRP rise in the bloodstream, and elevated CRP levels are a well-known predictor of future cardiac events. One case, widely cited in medical circles, involved a 52-year-old man with no family history of heart disease. He exercised regularly, ate well, didn't smoke, but he suffered a massive heart attack. During recovery, doctors discovered severe, untreated periodontitis. He never saw it coming because the danger wasn't in his diet, it was in his mouth. The science is clear. Neglecting your gums isn't just bad for your teeth. It's a high-risk behavior, one that could cost you your life. It doesn't happen all at once. That's what makes it so dangerous. Gum disease isn't an explosion, it's erosion. A slow grinding process that turns minor neglect into major destruction. It starts with plaque, then bleeding, then tartar. Inflammation follows, and from there your body enters a state of quiet war. Chronic inflammation begins to affect blood vessels, insulin response, even brain chemistry. Studies have linked gum disease not just to heart attacks, but to strokes, diabetes, dementia, and certain cancers. Because when your mouth becomes a battleground, the war doesn't stay local. It spills into every system that keeps you alive. And the deeper the inflammation spreads, the harder it becomes to reverse. Your body starts operating in crisis mode, draining resources, weakening defenses, compromising healing. It's a domino effect. Sometimes, all it takes is a single push, like plaque that's left untreated, and that can start a cascade, leading to hospitalization, chronic medication, or honestly, even worse outcomes. Most people, tend to think of health decline as something sudden, but actually more often it's a long descent. And, gum disease is really one of the earliest steps on that path. All because, for so long, we just assumed our mouths were separate from the rest of our bodies. All because we, mistook silence for safety. But health isn't compartmentalized, not really. The bacteria in your mouth don't need permission to invade, and once they do, they don't just stop at your smile. The good news, you're not powerless, far from it. Because the same invisible threat that creeps in silently can also be pushed back with consistent, simple action. It begins with what you do every day. Brushing twice daily isn't just about clean teeth. It's about disrupting bacterial colonies before they harden into tartar. Use a soft bristled brush and angle it toward the gum line. You're not just cleaning surfaces, you're defending the border. But brushing alone isn't enough. Flossing reaches where bristles can't, between the teeth and under the gum line, where bacteria thrive in tight, hidden spaces. If flossing feels awkward or difficult, try interdental brushes or water flossers. The key is consistency, not perfection. Add an antimicrobial mouthwash to your routine. Choose one with chlorhexidine or essential oils to reduce bacterial load without overdrying your mouth. And don't underestimate your diet. Sugary and starchy foods actually feed plaque-forming bacteria. But the good news is, leafy greens, crunchy vegetables, green tea, and omega-3 fatty acids can help fight inflammation naturally. It's really important to schedule regular dental cleanings every 6 months, or even more frequently if you already show signs of gum disease. Tartar just can't be removed at home. Once it hardens, only a professional can safely eliminate it. And lastly, you should monitor your mouth just like you would your blood pressure or cholesterol. Bleeding gums, redness, bad breath that won't go away? These are early alerts, basically your body's version of a warning light. Your mouth is a mirror. It reflects what's happening inside. Taking care of it isn't optional. It's actually a form of preventive medicine. And when done consistently, it becomes a life-saving habit. Because the difference between a clean smile and a cardiac event might just be 2 minutes with a toothbrush. We've been taught to think of dental care as cosmetic, to chase white teeth and minty breath as if that's the goal. But your mouth is more than a smile. It's a gateway. A battleground, and sometimes it's the first place disease begins to whisper. Heart attacks rarely come with a warning, but gum disease does. You just have to know how to listen. What you do in front of the mirror each morning matters. Not just for your appearance, not just for your confidence, but for your life. The next time you brush your teeth, remember this. You're not just removing plaque, you're disrupting a threat. You're choosing prevention over crisis, and you're giving your heart one less battle to fight. So don't wait until it hurts, don't wait until it's visible. By then, the damage may already be done. Act now. Build the habits, stay alert to the signs, and most of all, share this knowledge. Because, someone you love may think a little blood on the toothbrush is no big deal. When in fact, it could be the beginning of something far more serious. If this video helped you see things differently, share it. If it made you think twice before skipping your nightly brushing, subscribe. Because the more we learn about the mouth, the more we realize it was never just about the teeth.